Good morning, beautiful people. How are we all? So, on this rainy, cloudy, mixed up day, I love mixed up days, I'd like to tell you a story. So if you're sitting comfortably, as they say, then we'll begin. So this story, you may have seen my little poem on Facebook called The Witch That Buried Her Hat. And it goes like this. A long time ago, on the solstice eve, the summer solstice eve, a beautiful baby witch was born. She was born in a cabin in the woods to her beautiful mother, who was also a witch. And there they lived happily, and she grew and she grew until she was about 7 years old. Her mummy became poorly, and her mummy left this realm and went to another, leaving the little witch behind on her own. So the witch needed someone to care for her. Along came her grandfather. Now her grandfather was not a very nice man. Not a very nice man at all. And he said to her, you need to leave this cabin and you need to come and live with me in the town, where there weren't many trees and not much nature. But she had to go because she was just small and she needed someone to look after her. So off she went. And when she arrived at this strange concrete place, she didn't feel home here. She didn't feel home. But there she was, and there she lived. And when she started school, she would turn up at school in her favourite clothes, her hat and her long sweeping skirts. And the other children would laugh at her because she looked so different. She was so weird, so strange. And in her lunchtime, there was one tree in the playground that she would love to go and talk to, because as you know, witches can talk to trees. That's part of their magic. And so she would talk to this tree and the children would giggle. Look at that silly girl. Oh, she's so embarrassing. Don't want to be friends with her. She's way too weird. And the witch would hear all this. The little witch listened. And it made her feel sad. So she would go home and talk to her granddad. And her granddad would say, it's because you're so different. You're so weird. You just need to blend in like everybody else. Otherwise you're going to get picked on all the time. No one's going to like you. And you're going to be so alone and so unsafe. So, one night the little witch awoke. And she climbed out of her bed. And she went back to the woodland. And she sat in the earth. And all the animals gathered around, the night animals, because it was in the night, the owl and the bats, and all the creatures of the night, for some reason I can't think of any more. They all gathered around and they sat with her and they said, what are you doing? She said, I've come to bury my hat and my clothes. I have to be normal like everybody else. I have to be normal or I'm going to be so sad, so hopeless. I'll have no friends. Nobody will like me. This is what I need to do. But are you really sure? Are you really sure? The wise owl said. Are you really sure? Yes, I have to do this. So she did. She dug a hole with her hands, deep, deep down into the earth, and she buried her hat and her clothes. in the hole, covered it over with lots of soil, and back home she went. In her little nightgown, she climbed back into bed. She felt very sad. But when she went to school the next day, some other children spoke to her, and she managed to make a few friends. And her granddad was a little more accepting of her, although he still wasn't a very nice man. And so she lived her life, normal, a normal person. But every night when she went to bed, she could hear the hat calling her. "Please come and get me. Please come and get me," it would say. Every night. And she would lay there. La 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 la. "I can't hear you." Eventually, the "please come and get me" turned into "please come and get me. Please come and get me." And it got quieter and quieter until it disappeared. And the witch grew, and she wore normal clothes, and a normal hat, had normal hair, a normal face, and she got a normal job with normal people, and had a normal life and normal children, and everything was normal and perfect and amazing. And she'd forgotten, deeply, deeply, deeply forgotten, all about her hat. Until one day she dropped her children off at school, and she thought, "I'm going to go for a walk through the woods. I haven't been to the woods for such a long time, I can't remember." And off she went. And as she walked through the woods, the feeling of being in the woods with the trees was amazing. She loved it. I need to come here more often. Something about this place, it's so lovely. And as she walked, and she walked, and she walked, she walked past a hawthorn tree. And as she looked at the hawthorn tree, she thought, "What's that in that tree?" Sure enough, there were little fairies. Fairies swinging in the boughs of the tree. "I must be going mad," she thought. "People don't see fairies." And the fairies replied, "People do. You do. This is your tree." And they sang a little song. "This is your tree. This is your tree. Come and see. This is your tree." And she didn't know what they meant. "What do you mean, this is my tree? What do you mean, my tree? This is a hawthorn tree. It's very pretty. I love the flowers and the smell's amazing. But it's not my tree. It's a tree. This is your tree," the fairies kept saying. And she stood there with the hawthorn bush, thinking, there's something really familiar about this place. I can feel something deep, deep, deep in my belly. This is a strange feeling. I don't remember this feeling. And she had a rush. This is a beautiful feeling. I like this feeling. And the fairy popped out and said, "This is your tree. This is your tree. Come and see, this is your tree." And suddenly she remembered. It dropped in, and she stood there. "I have a hat. Oh, I have a hat. I have a hat. I have a hat. I have a hat. Where's my hat? Where's my hat?" And she was crazy for this hat. She knew it was her hat, and she remembered. "Here's your tree. Here's your tree," the fairies would say. And she remembered. It's underneath the tree. So she fell to the earth, and as soon as her hands touched the earth, she had this wave of emotions, and she heard a voice saying, "Hear me, hear me, don't ignore me, hear me, I'm your hat, I'm here." And then it all rushed back, all the memories that she'd buried in that hat, all the magic, all of her powers, how she could heal the earth, talk to the trees, talk to the animals, talk to the plants, how she could see things in the sky, the cloud people, the stars, the planets, everything all working together, communicating with her, the life. And she dug, 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 and her nails were ripped, and there was mud and dirt all up her arms, all over her face, and it felt amazing. And there was her hat. And she glanced down at her hat, and everything stayed still. Time stopped. In that moment, she reached down for her hat. 2 hands, 2 muddy, earthy, delicious hands, and she picked it up and put it on her head, and all the magic returned to her. All the magic and all the colours around her when she opened her eyes had changed. Everything was luminous. The green was green. The red was red. The birds were louder. The earth felt richer, and there were noises she'd never heard before. And she knew. She was magic. And she was here. She's a witch. She was here to heal the world, as all witches are. And she swore that this hat that she placed upon her head, that would never, ever leave her head again. For this was her power and her beauty and her destiny. And may you all wear your hats.